Okay.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Hello and welcome to Netflix versus Cinema, the podcast that goes to the cinema every week, sees a couple of things, rates them out of 5, stays at home, sees a couple of things, rates them out of 5, weighs them up against each other and sees where has the money been better spent this week. My name is Tosin and I am your host, and I am recording from somewhere in the UK called Bromsgrove, just outside Birmingham, in the middle of the country. And joining me as always on the Isle of Wight are Sharon Bollen.
Hello there.
Shaun Harris.
Hiya.
And bring in a bit of, I guess class, would you say, to proceedings, or a bit of a big city to the proceedings. It's a Lauren correspondent, Holly Nestling.
Aye.
This is the first time we've had a full house of us in God knows how long.
Wow.
Yeah, because, it's been a while. Because before Christmas, I decided, let's become a dad for the second time. And then that just that's thrown a spanner in the works. And then it's just been like a piecemeal. Okay, who have we got on deck? Get them in, get them in, get them in, get them in. And now we actually have everybody back. Shaun has survived Thailand again.
Just.
You survived that. How did writing your memoirs, because you said for Christmas you were going to be writing your memoirs on a beach in Thailand. How did that go?
Not so good. I'm afraid. Not so good. It's like me. I procrastinated. I found other things to do. I had a little, because I was on the island. I rented a little moped and went exploring. So I went to to some other places and sampled some street food, and it just never really. And then as I say, for a couple of days I wasn't feeling particularly good. So no, I'm afraid I'll have to wait till October.
Okay, so because that's the thing, Shaun. Knowing what you're like, right? I was just thinking, hang on a second. This is Shaun. He is not going to go. He's not going to go all the way to Thailand and then sit on a beach. There's too much stuff going out there. There's too much life to live. There's too many people to meet.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, all right, cool. But anyway, we are glad that you are back with us.
Thank you.
With us. And right, and Sharon. I'm trying to think with it. Okay, let's kick off with this. Sharon, you have essentially become, as I said on our WhatsApp group, you've become like a Jeremy Vine on election night. When it comes to our YouTube, channel. So do you want to tell us what's been happening? What are the trends you've noticed on the YouTube channel? Because you keep looking, and every now and then we get a message from you going, "Ooh, guys, guess what? Ooh, look at this."
Well, yeah, I do keep an eye on what the analytics for our YouTube channel and see what's performing well, and there's some sort of like they are slow burners. They're ones we've had out for a while, but they still get regular views. So I keep an eye on things. But we've had a particular review of Godzilla -1.
Yes.
That has been particularly well received. And
yes.
It has had, at last count, and I looked at it earlier today because I had a very busy day, it was 1,400 and climbing.
Wow.
And for us, that's a lot. That's a lot of attention being paid to us.
In 6 days. And then there have been a number of comments and 37 likes. And I think as a result of that video, we've got an extra 4 or possibly 5 new subscribers.
Wow.
And it's been performing well in Japan. We had 26% of the viewers are just from Japan.
Wow.
And there's something like 19% are from the United States. And the rest is sort of like not strongly sort of shown in the demographics. But the demographics are it's performing, over half of the views are from either the United States or in Japan itself.
What you're telling us is that we're getting big in Japan.
Big in Japan.
So, yeah, it has been performing well. So, and what you've said about how you thought it was just like the best thing you'd seen in ages is actually really resonating with a lot of people, as Tosin will be able to tell you from some of the comments.
Yes. I can have a look at this. So every now and then this happens where we have, and I think you were saying earlier, we're new to this whole YouTube thing, and we don't really understand exactly what makes one thing hit or another thing go, because we don't particularly go chasing the views. We don't particularly go going, ooh, what's trending right now? Let's make a video on what's trending. We don't really do that. We just put stuff out there, and then every now and then we're like, oh, something's hit. So we've had, let's see, Shaun, a lot of people are essentially, a lot of people are liking it, are liking what you said about it. So we've had somebody called Slam and Jam 2 who said, this is a must-watch in theaters about Godzilla -1. He says, already saw it twice in IMAX, and honestly, I want to see it once more before it's gone. Wow. And let's see, user, whole bunch of random letters and numbers, says, you owe it to yourself to see G-1 in a real movie theater, which apparently is becoming a thing. People are just referring to it as G-1. And even when you go onto Twitter and you do like a hashtag Godzilla-1, it's become one of these things that like a little picture of Godzilla pops up right beside it when you put the hashtag in, because there's so many people talking about this, and this in this country anyway, and I feel like in the English speaking world, it's become a bit of a sleeper hit where it's come out and then obviously people are like, oh my word, we need to go see this film. And I don't think I haven't seen this much word of mouth hype about a Godzilla movie in years. I just really haven't seen it. So, and let's see, somebody saying seen it 3 times. This is somebody called Dolphin Nation. Seen it 3 times. Took my daughter, took my wife. Then we all wanted to see it again. So I guess it went a 3rd time to all go see it. And somebody who's just sort of said, thanks for giving the big G some promotion.
Oh wow, that's all right. That's good.
Yes. So this is all you, Shaun, and this one I don't know, because I guess when you said Sharon, when you said that I hadn't looked into it to see where the views had come from. When you said that a lot of the views had come from Japan, it makes this last comment make a lot more sense. And it's simply just by someone called Dave-EL6RH, and he just sort of simply says, I'm guessing it's a he, just simply says, thank you, really, thank you.
Oh wow.
Yeah, just so I think it means, and if I look at Sharon, I may be wrong about this, but I feel like the top 2 things that we've reviewed are Godzilla -1 and the one with the fire.
Destiny.
Yes, the Fire of Destinies, which are both non-English productions, and I'm guessing that people are looking at it and are seeing that we might be one of the few things in English, definitely with the Fire of Destiny. What is it? Is it the Fire of Destiny?
The
Bonfire
of the Bonfire of Destiny.
Bonfire of Destiny. I think we're one of the only English things on that, and Godzilla -1. I'm guessing we must be one of the few English things on there because it's So
because the Bonfire video, we still regularly get 20 or 30 views a week on that one.
Yeah, we do.
So even though it's been out there for a few years and it's not ever had a massive, it's never been like hundreds in one week, but nearly every single week we get views on it.
We pretty much have never noticed the number of views we're getting on that, or we're just turn around and go, hang on a second, how did that happen?
Yeah, I think it's literally up to 1,500 now. So it's just been, and we've never ever had more than like sort of 20 or 30 a week, but it's just for constantly for the last 2 years we get regularly, 20, 30 people view it every month.
So get Persuasion.
Yeah, but Persuasion
was up there. That is about 800. Was just under 800 views. Yeah, and the Murdoch murders. Is it Murdoch murders? But
yeah.
Murders. That's up there with the Murtaugh murders. That's it. I knew something like that. That's plus 700 plus, because most of our videos tend to hover below the 100 mark. We've only of our like 400 videos, we've got, I think it's like 15 that have got over 100 views, and then we've only got 2 that are in the thousands. So we don't have we have regular sort of subscribers who sort of come along and watch some of our videos, but we're not a huge hitting out there on that. We're not a big presence on YouTube.
No, we're not a big presence at all. And it's but it's kind of like, so we're still like, oh my god, we got noticed.
When we get one that goes, it's like, what is that's why I'm so fascinated by the figures. I look at the figures and I go, what is it? It could be that it's just, again, instead of the word that we review non-English speaking films, which they always tend to perform well. And I suppose we just care about the films we see. So we don't go chasing the sort of big hitters. We just review films that we really care about.
But it could mean that, and if we wanted to chase the views, we would probably just go, right, that's it, from now on we only speak about non-English language things. But that requires too much focus. And I think it requires too much focus. We can't be bothered. We're just going to watch what we are going to watch, and we're going to talk about it. And every now and then people will notice us. That is fine. If you're one of the people that noticed us, thank you very much. And please, please, please do listen to some other things. Watch some of the stuff that we've said about things that are made in English. They might be fun. You never know.
Like and subscribe. As they say, like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Hit the like button.
And subscribe. Yes. I was actually thinking about putting something like that.
It's like, hey.
I was thinking of putting something like that on the end of each video, and I thought, why am I trying to give myself more work? I can't. I can't be doing this. I can't be doing this. Yeah, but even said that I do still have to make an advert that we put up on like a podcast advert. But never mind. If you listen to us, if you get in touch with us, if you send us any message whatsoever, thank you very much. Please continue doing it. And yeah, who knows? We might be able to make £1 each out of this podcast yet. So. All right, cool. So that's the YouTube with Godzilla's stuff done. But how about what we have been watching in the cinema? So I think at the moment we have Steph, Steph. Who I have decided that Holly, you're a London correspondent. I think Steph needs an official title on this show, and I've decided that she is Holly's cinema enabler.
Excellent. I will inform. Be pleased to know.
Yes, she is still not back on holiday, so therefore, yeah.
She is back tomorrow, and we are going to see 2 things on Saturday. We are just determining which 2 they will be.
Okay, tell her to have a listen. Tell her to go to our YouTube channel and have a look and not see any of the films we already reviewed because that would be redundant.
The plan is for tomorrow, I think, possibly The Beekeeper and Priscilla.
All right, cool. We have not reviewed either of those. Yes, those I approve. Those movies.
So I am not going to be able to do next week, so I may have to record a review by myself and send it to you.
I'm going to blame Steph. But anyway, until she comes on this podcast, I'm just going to blame everything on her. All right, and so how about Shaun, Sharon, what did you see in the cinema?
Okay, well, yeah, I saw Night Swim.
All right,
Night Swim. Trying to capture that horror vibe, which...
Yeah, and you know, honestly, right? Sure, we will get to your review of this. Yeah. But I heard about Night Swim. I heard about the general thing about this, and my first thing was, there's no way in hell Shaun likes this film. there is no way in hell Shaun is going to like this film. But we will wait, and I will wait with bated breath to see whether I am right or whether I am wrong. And Sharon, how about you in cinema? What did you see?
I saw One Life at the cinema this week.
One Life with Anthony Hopkins and your favorite Johnny Flynn.
Johnny Flynn, yeah.
Wait, I have to admit, I don't see the attraction to Johnny Flynn, but hey, each to their own. But, all right, cool. And how about at home? What have we seen at home, Holly?
This week I have finished. Form a coherent sentence. I have finished.
Fool Me Once.
Fool Me Once, and also watched the magic that is Monsternado.
So for those of you who don't listen to the podcast regularly, Holly and Sharon share this obsession with terrible shark movies spearheaded by Sharknado. And last week I brought to Holly and Sharon's attention that there was a film called Monsternado out in the universe, and I have regretted pointing this out to Holly ever since. I have regretted pointing this out to her. So yes, you watched Monsternado, and we have said I will give you 2 minutes before we finish recording, 2 minutes and no more to talk about Monsternado because you believe you have to share. You misery loves company,
exactly.
And you decided that.
And I'm hoping that I can inspire other people to watch it, so they can tell me what actually happened.
Okay, cool. And Shaun, what did you see?
Okay, well, I watched South Park. Because I've got Amazon. I've subscribed to Amazon now. They got like 7-day free trial for Paramount. So
yeah, Paramount Plus.
I watched South Park, the Pandaverse, and also I watched the thing on Prime called The Treacherous, which was a Korean movie. So,
okay, all right.
I mean, I don't know if we'll have time to do what.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a pretty packed show today. So we are going to be moving some things on to next week, and I will be figuring that out as we go along. All right. And Sharon, what did you see at home?
I saw on catch up on ITVX a drama that's causing a lot of stir in Britain at the moment. Mr. Bates versus the Post Office.
Mr. Bates versus the Post Office, yes.
Yes.
Which that I was like, okay, cool, yeah. We don't walk around chasing the trends, but I feel like we need to talk about that. All right, cool. So let us kick off with no further ado and kick off quickly with One Life. Sharon, tell us about One Life.
One Life, yeah. This is a biopic of a man called Nicholas Winton, who in 1938 he was on a mission to Czechoslovakia, and it was just after Hitler's Nazi National Socialist Party had invaded one part of Czechoslovakia, the Sudetenland, and he goes to Prague basically as part of his work. And when he's there, he sees the plight of some of the refugees. And as he has been shown around some of the refugee areas, he is particularly struck by the plight of unaccompanied children. And even some of the ones, and even those children who have parents, the fact that these young children are in a desperate situation. And he goes back to Britain and he's determined that he can do what he can. And so he basically, him and his family organize what is called the kinder transports, whereby they organize foster care, they pay a fee, they guarantee, and they organize the papers to get these children out of these desperate situations. And in a period of before the war started, so from 1937, I think it was, to 1938, so only over 2 years, he organized something like 8 kinder transport trains and successfully managed to save the lives of over 600 children by finding them a spot. Each child was he found a sponsor for them, he paid the fee for them, and he organized foster care. And yeah, he recorded every single one of these children. And the film is a story of how this happened, how he came to do these kinder transports. And also in his old age, he wants to find a depository for his scrapbook that he kept, recording the lives of these children and the story of the kinder transports. And he happens to give it to, I can't forget her name, but Mrs. Maxwell. It ends up with Esther Ransom, but he gives it to Robert Maxwell's wife. She's a French journalist and historian. He gives it to her. He's introduced to her, and she says this is actually a massive story. And then she, through her media contacts, it ends up on the desk of That's Life. And Mr. Winton attends, and they happen to have found one of his kinder transport children, and he's like reunited with them. And then as the story unfolds, basically, he gets to meet more of the children that he saved. And it became a big story at the time.
Yeah, because I wasn't in the UK at the time, but even though it's just part of the cultural sort of like awareness, cultural lexicon, the bit where That's Life, which was a TV show that was hosted by Esther Ranson in the it the 80s or the 70s?
70s and early 80s. But yes, it was they did comic stories, they did silly things, they had like misshapen vegetables that looked like a man smoking a cigar. They had that sort of thing. They mixed comedy, but they also had this real pathos, so they did real deep stories. And what attracted me to this story, this film this week, was there's a theme running through my films I've seen this week, was how as a television program has real impact in the real world.
Yeah.
How something that might have started off as entertainment actually resonated, and the fact that his story was known, the people started contacting this live to say, actually, I was on one of the kinder transports too.
Yeah.
And they have this, there's a very famous episode of That's Life where he is sat in the front of the audience and Esther Ranson says, can anyone who was affected by the kinder transports please stand up? And the entire studio stands up, and he looks around and he sees basically these hundreds of people who wouldn't be there if he hadn't done his small thing. And he regards it like he's like a very small part. He did what he could, but he always felt that it was never quite enough. And they're saying that, that you're that one life that you saved, you also saved her children, her grandchildren, her future. And but for everyone that you didn't save, that the impact on those that you did was immense. And he was, after this event, so that it drew the attention of the media, it drew the attention of public life, and he was actually knighted quite late in life, but he was actually knighted for his work, and he became obviously Sir Nicholas Winton, and he lived to be the age of 106. So he had this long life, but it was a life that had impact. So one life, as in the name of the film, can make a real impact, as we'll see in my other film that I'll review later. But no, it was played by young Nicholas Winton, was played by Johnny Flynn, and older Nicholas Winton was played by Sir Anthony Hopkins. A good cast. Helena Bonham Carter plays young Johnny Flynn's mum, and there's other sort of actors and actresses who pop up, but they're the principal ones that everyone would recognise. It's very well done. I enjoyed it. Some moments it felt a little bit quiet. It took a little bit to get into because it felt a little bit slow burn. But I really thought it was well done. It's a story that's obviously worth telling. and that this one life, you can celebrate one life and the things they do, acknowledge their achievements, which
Yeah.
is what people do for Sir Nicholas Winton. And so, yeah, I think it's certainly worth checking out. So quite a somber film in places, but it has that a good heart to it. But yeah, it wasn't a perfect film, but I thoroughly enjoyed it, and my friends enjoyed it as well when we went together. So I would give it definitely a strong 3. I don't think it's quite a 4 for me, even though the story is a 4, absolutely. But I think the film, the execution, the tone, to me, it was a solid film, but it was a 3.
Yeah, yeah. The thing is, I can tell that either A, I'm getting older, or B, that I'm a dad now. But even you just talking about, you're just talking about the moment when all the kids stand up around him, and I'm already kind of welling up. But I'm just sitting there going, oh my god, yeah, no, never mind, let's move on. That's no, that does sound I mean, the story, I agree, does sound absolutely amazing, and the fact that I've never actually seen the moment, but I've heard about it, and people just keep talking about it and saying that was one of the, like, I think keeps making lists on the top 10 TV moments of the decade or something, or the century, or something like that. And also, yeah, the power of TV. So thank you very much for that, Sharon. That is 3 stars for One Life. And now we go over to Netflix and Friends, and now we go with Fool Me Once. And Fool Me Once, Holly, I'm going to give you... Now, this is what happens when you actually watch something good. You get 5 minutes. You get 5 minutes to talk about
5 minutes. 5 minutes.
5 minutes to talk about this, as opposed to Monsternado, which you get 2 minutes later on if you can fit it in. But
In some ways, you can talk more about Monsternado, bizarrely, because you're not worrying about giving anything away. So it has a certain flexibility to it.
Okay, cool. Fool Me Once on Netflix.
Fool Me Once is an 8-part series on Netflix, based upon the book by Harlan Coben. Its lead character is played by Michelle Keagan, who is from Northern England, and it was in the army and had been a military helicopter pilot.
Oh, the character as opposed to the actor.
The character as opposed to the actor. Though she has been in all sorts of TV that I have never watched.
Coronation Street, most notably.
And she is married to what's his face, whose name I can never remember, which is ridiculous, which is why I'm having to double check.
We'll call him Guy.
Yes, Richard Armitage.
Oh, he loves being in Harlan Coben stuff.
He does, doesn't he?
He's always showing up in Harlan Coben stuff. All right, yeah.
So they are married. They have a young child. He comes from a very, very wealthy family. His mother is played by Joanna Lumley, and you know I have very mixed views about Joanna Lumley. And will not always tolerate watching things if she's in them. And he has a number of other siblings. So it all begins with, they are happy getting married, and or at this point are married. And the series really then moves off with him having been killed in a attempted robbery on the streets of whichever bit of London they live in, and he's been shot. She has left the military in circumstances which are not entirely clear, but you have a strong feeling that it's of the, not quite Abu Ghraib-esque, but there was something bad that has happened. She seems to have done something wrong. And the series begins to unfold with her trying to find out what actually has happened. She starts to think that possibly her husband might not be dead, as there's some, mysterious footage, all sorts of slightly odd things happen. And she starts to think, what is going on behind this? Her sister had been murdered prior to her husband's death in a break and enter. And all of these very difficult things have happened. She's trying to readjust to life without her husband, with this stilted relationship with his incredibly wealthy family, and this sort of overwhelming sense of what all of these things that have, what's actually happened in a sort of traditional Harlan Coben fashion. That there are things that go back over the years that you're not sure about and that will slowly, over 8 episodes, unfold.
Yeah, he seems to be quite good at that. Harlan Coben is like, here is the premise coming on and go. And I've never actually read any of his books or watched any of his things, but it seems as if it's just kind of like he's good at doing the sort of, I would say, pulpy thriller.
Yes.
Kind of, yeah.
I've seen a couple of his. I've seen The Five, which was on Netflix, and another one, was it called The Woods? It was a Polish
Okay, all right.
that was done with, but I watched simultaneously with subtitles and dubbing, which was quite interesting for seeing. It was one of those moments of the contrast where you see between what you get from each of them. It was fascinating. This was not.
I've done that before.
So back to Fool Me Once. What did you think about so that's the thing, and I know that we can't really talk about it much more because then we start getting into spoiler territory. I think that's the nature of Harlan Coben stuff.
So there are a few bits that are quite interesting about it because it has a very American feel.
Yes.
That is said, that's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's a story that would fit better in the US.
I think the original book was actually set in the US.
And that would make sense. There are all sorts of things. One of the things about it is guns. They are more liberal with guns in it than you would just ever expect in the UK. There are guns present in a way that we simply don't see here. You don't have people who have a gun, normal people don't have a gun safe at home. It's just sort of unimaginable.
Yeah.
So there are elements like that which just you look at and think, not quite. It's not wrong. It just feels a little bit incongruous.
Yeah, I've heard that about the guns. I've heard this in reviews about this film. They say that the guns is a bit. It takes you out of it a bit.
And his family have a much more American feel to them. Whilst they're ostensibly, a wealthy, a long-standing wealthy, upper middle class family, they feel more like American upper middle class. The nature of the sort of the family business money and things, it doesn't feel, sounds really stupid, it doesn't feel very British.
Okay.
But it doesn't. It's a little bit incongruous.
It's just not cricket.
Just not cricket. Well, we don't have those sorts of, we don't quite have those sorts of families. It's just not.
Well, I guess we do, just not in that sort of way.
Yeah, we have all sorts of very odd families, but we don't have families that are that sort of financial setup.
Okay.
It's a bit weird. It's worth watching to. Once you get to the end, you're like, oh yeah, no, that's odd, but it is really well put together.
Yeah.
It's very well cast. It really has pace. I mean, it's compulsive. You want to get to the end. I didn't see the final twists at all. At all. I was genuinely, surprised. And other people I know who are also good, who are much better at me at predicting what's going to happen, didn't see it coming either.
Okay, cool.
And some of that is also, a little bit of that is, I think, because of cultural, some things would be possibly a little bit more predictable in the US than in the UK.
Okay.
Possibly. Not necessarily, possibly.
So how many stars would you give it?
A very high 3.
Okay.
Would thoroughly recommend. Not the best thing I've ever seen. Very good viewing.
Well, it does sound like, they said something about Netflix. Netflix says that they want to be making gourmet burgers. And it sounds like, it's nice, it's flashy and everything like that, but it's still junk food. So
yes, that's exactly it.
Yeah, and it sounds like they have nailed exactly what they're going for there. All right, cool. So that's that done. I just realized that I can show a timer to everybody. Can everybody see a timer on the screen at the moment?
No.
What if I do that?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh wow. Oh, good Lord. The power.
Power, there you go.
The power for anybody who is not watching this who's not watching this on Zoom or watching this on YouTube, you have no clue what we're talking about because it's just audio. But we're recording over Zoom, and I've just realized that I can put a timer so everybody knows how much longer they have to talk.
The pressure. Oh.
Yes, which I can totally ignore when it comes to me because I have the power and I can abuse it as I see fit. All right, cool. And now, Shaun, let us go onto the film that I think that there is no chance in hell of you liking. There's no chance in hell of you liking Night Swim because I've heard about this, and once I heard the words haunted swimming pool, I was like, oh, Shaun is gonna rip this a new one. That's if he even sees it. I mean, Shaun's gonna rip. So, Shaun, tell me, am I right? Do you indeed not like Night Swim?
I'm that predictable, am I? I'm that predictable. No, we don't like Night Swim. You're exactly right. You nailed it as you always did. I went to see this with a couple of friends because the timing was right, and the friends I go with, they tend to like that sort of thing, you know. And I quite go along for the heckling side of it, really, more than anything else, because I find it hilarious a lot of the time. So yeah, basically the story is it starts off. There's like a little prologue beforehand where something rather nasty happens with the swimming pool, and then the titles come up, and then it switches to this baseball player, and he's played by
Wyatt Russell.
Russell's son, Wyatt Russell, yeah. And he's injured. He's a big league baseball player, so obviously, because John said to me, how did you get the money to do that? And I said, well, if he's a baseball player, he's going to be rich. Anyway, they decide to buy this place, but they haven't been told what's happened there, and the swimming pool's empty, and they decide that, we'll have to fill this because it'll be good for therapy, and it would be so an ideal place to buy, you know. But obviously,
because he's experienced an injury, and so he's trying to go through rehab.
Exactly right. Yeah, exactly right. But obviously, strange things begin to happen, you know, and there's strange appearances by the most ridiculous looking.
What? No,
which you'd never believe, and it's like, we can see what's coming now, and it's like, no, don't do it. You know, like I always go on about these things like it's so predictable. Why would people do stuff? Oh, look, there's something there. I try and get that. I try and just reach over. You know what's gonna happen, man. Don't worry, you know. So there's and they try to be jumpy, and there's no jumpiness. And for me, it was more of like a family melodrama thing, because there's a lot of stuff goes on where there's an incident where they try to sort of, you know, become friendly with the neighborhood, and there's an incident that happens in the pool where, you know, one of the members of the family does something that's not particularly nice, and they're like, oh, we're not coming around here again. Oh, we don't like you. Which I think there would have been sort of police involved and things like that for the incident that happened. But anyway, never mind. And then gradually things begin to get you know, a little bit darker, and you've got all these you know, scream moments, and people swim. You know this, you know, when they're swimming in the pool, and then someone's under. It's just like, you know, how long can you hold your breath? You know, can you be under for like something like 3.5 minutes? I don't know, but anyway.
So that's enough of the story now, Shaun. Tell us exactly what is it that attracted your ire with this?
The most attract the ire. The ridiculous ending. The most ridiculous, really. I mean, I was pretty. I thought,
pull the plug out.
Yeah, something along those lines. But it's just like there's something really, really horrible happened, and then it's like all this stuff has happened, and someone's let's just say, you know, the usual thing, like there's a possession type of thing, and then it's just like there's not, and it's like, what? How did that suddenly happen? Do you know what I mean? All like that, you know, suddenly, oh yeah, come back to the light. You know, and it's like, oh, right, that's it, is it? That's it. You're telling me that's it. So all those horrible creaturey things that have been doing loads of stuff, and you can just do that now, and everything's all good and hunky-dory. So yeah, and it's wow, you know, yeah, it's laughable. It's laughable. I suppose I should just give it one because I laugh so much, you know, and but it's the same. Why are you doing that? Why do people do stuff when they know, oh, there's something wrong with the swimming pool? Mum, there's something wrong with the swimming pool. I'm not sure. Oh no, it's okay, it's okay, like that. Oh look, let's just see what's that. Oh no, believe what?
There's
You've been
something.
pulled in. You've been pulled in. Now there's a surprise.
There's something
I
wrong
don't
with
know.
the swimming pool. It's like,
Yeah,
you know
something wrong
what?
with the swimming pool.
Don't worry, go for a swim. We'll clear
That's
your
it.
head.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah. Oh, anyway, so basically, it is. It's a terribly awful film. Not even laughable. And this is probably, I mean, I've seen a few horror movies, but it's going to be sorry, cinema. Sorry, cinema. This gets a 1. This gets a 1.
It was a
It's
horrific
really
horror
that
film.
bad. Yeah, it was a horror of a horror film, and it was pretty damn awful. And that's about all we can say about Night Swim.
Night swim. I just thought there's no way in hell. There's no way in hell Shaun has anything but contempt for this film.
Contempt is the word. Contempt is the word.
No way in hell that shows me. Okay, so 1 star for Night Swim. 1 star.
That actually sounds worse than one of the other really bad horror films I watched this week, where the creature in it was basically a giant amphibious mole rat. And that's a damning indictment.
Mole rat.
You see that because this is the thing, right? Okay, so for instance, with Night Swim, I have heard I've seen people give it a 4 star, and I've seen a lot more people give it like nothing, and I feel like it's essentially it's a kind of film where it's a bit like Saltburn, which I want to talk about later and everything like that.
Yeah.
I want to talk about and it's a film. I think it sounds to me like the kind of film that once you've decided it's a certain type of film, you can have a lot of fun with it. Like Sharon saying, "Hello, Max," because I can now tell Holly's cats apart. But it's like it's that kind of thing. If you decide it's this type of film and you think, okay, this is what we're having, you could have a love, because there's bits about this that you've mentioned and things that I've heard that almost sound like a parody of horror films, like a parody of like the sort of horror films that you hate, Shaun, as opposed to actually being a proper horror film. So I can imagine, Holly, because you are is the word doyen of bad movies. You actively love bad movies.
I do. I've watched about 4 this week.
Yeah, you actually love bad movies. And it's the kind of thing I can imagine that you were watching and be like, that was glorious. While Shaun is just there throwing things at the screen going, why would you do that? All right, cool. So let's get on to with everything I've heard. And Shaun, you said sorry, cinema, because obviously we're Netflix or cinema, and the scores that we are given determine whether Netflix or cinema wins this week. And I think, Shaun, you've just sort of said that Night Swim has meant that there's no chance for cinema winning this week, especially as it is going to be up against Mr. Bates versus the Post Office. Sharon, tell us about Mr. Bates versus the Post Office and why everybody should care.
Well, this is something that has obviously hit the news in Britain in a big way, and in many ways, this acts as a spur to get things moving. This is a story that goes back to the late 1990s, when the Post Office in Great Britain introduced a new computerized system called the Horizon system, and it was introduced to a lot of the sub post offices around the country. And a sub post office, for those who aren't aware, is normally a post office that is run alongside a shop or alongside a business in a community. It's not run entirely by the post office. It's normally run by an independent person who runs it as a sideline to their main business. And so these are the small businesses all over in rural parts of the country, all over the country, and in smaller communities. They're everywhere.
Yes, and I'll say just before we get serious, I'd just like to say I remember there was one running cows when I used to live on the Isle of Wight. There was one running cows by a very, very not nice lady. who we took to calling Bellatrix Lestrange because of her hair.
They do crop on the strange places. We've got a sub post office just up the road from us. Yeah, and they can be a bit of an odd bunch. But anyway, so in the late 90s, they introduced the post office, introduced this new computerized system that was brought by Fujitsu, and it was introduced to these small sub post offices. And then pretty soon afterwards, people started noticing there's some sort of glitches, that they couldn't quite get their books to balance. And when they signed the contracts with the sub postmaster as a sub postmaster or mistress, the contract said basically that you are responsible for any shortfall. So if there's any accounting errors and you are down £1,000, you are responsible for paying that £1,000 back. And then so these people suddenly they would find that the computer software was telling them they were thousands of pounds down and they were liable for this money. And the post office basically said, well, you are either false accounting or you're stealing or you're committing some sort of fraud, but you are responsible for all of these errors. It's not there's nothing wrong with the Horizon system. You are the only person who has reported this, and so this is your issue. And so it started off with like a couple of people who basically were like, well, okay, I'll pay this money back, but I'm promising you I did not take it. And it's coming up to like 20, 30, 40,000 pounds. These people have paid back from their savings. They're borrowing the money to pay it back because the post office is saying, if you don't pay this back, we are going to send you to prison. And the post office is one of these anomalies in Britain where they can prosecute their own cases in the courts of law. RSPCA are the same. There's other agencies where they can prosecute their own cases. It doesn't have to go through the police. It doesn't have to go through the Crown Prosecution Service. So the balance of proof, it's all down to the post office. They can prosecute their own cases. And so these people were then finding out that, yeah, they were being charged by the post office, found guilty, and some of them are going to prison, some of them are being fined. But it was a serious matter. And there's one man who had a post office in North Wales who said more or less immediately, there's a problem with the software. This is no way, is this my accounting error, there's a problem with software. And this man, his name is Mr. Alan Bates. And he then spent the next 20 years pursuing the post office for justice to say, and he was basically sacked from being a postmaster. He lost his business. He had to relocate his family, him and his wife. But he was determined he was not going to give in to this bullying by the post office. And he pursued this through the years. And he gathered basically one person at a time, these people to bring a case against the post office. And as the years have gone by, it turned into not just like one or two people, it was hundreds of people who were prosecuted, who were convicted, who were imprisoned, who were fined, who lost thousands and thousands of pounds. And as a response to this television drama, which was excellently done, by the way, Toby Jones playing Alan Bates, and a host of well-known faces who are just remarkable in their role. And it filled me with such righteous indignation that I think that anyone watching this would probably feel exactly the same, that this was just this it's just unjust. It was just outrageous that these people went through this. One man who stood up in court saying, no, I'm going to fight this because I can prove I didn't do it, because I can show you that there was a problem with the software.
Yeah.
He was found guilty. He was charged. He was ordered to repay the cost, like £30,000 shortfall, and then he was ordered by a judge to pay all of the court costs, which was £300,000. And so this was a man who hadn't done anything wrong and suddenly had to pay a bill of £330,000. He lost his home, he lost his business, he lost his livelihood, he lost his good name for something he hadn't done. And some people, because they were so scared of the system, they said, okay, I'll plead guilty to false accounting, even though I know I haven't done anything wrong, because you're telling me if I don't plead guilty to false accounting, I will go to prison.
Yeah.
And so it was just dreadful. And so we have then seen, I think what struck me as the similarities with One Life is how the power of drama, as in One Life, it was like a sort of entertainment show, that's life. But at the moment we see in Britain how this has suddenly become something we've been aware of for a long time. And I was aware of the post office scandal.
Yeah.
It's been in the news for years.
That's
Only
right.
seeing this, to see it sort of dramatized in this way, made you just literally burn with indignation. And I think this has sort of spread. And like now the government is saying, okay, enough's enough. We have got to step in and do something about this. The power of good drama, I think, is amazing.
I found out the other day that somebody I know locally's parents had to declare bankruptcy as sub-postmaster, postmistress because of it. And they'd lost everything.
Yeah, it's astonishing. But the power of this drama, I think, is what's astonishing, is that how a simple drama on the television that, I mean, can basically make people suddenly sit up and notice, because it makes it more personal, doesn't it? It's suddenly, by having these characters in your home and you see them behind the closed doors, you see their lives, the impact on their families, the impact on their children. A drama that reflects real life, done well, has got real power to it. And I think that's what really struck me when I was watching it, thinking, and seeing the outcome of what's happened with this drama is that, it has real impact.
Yeah, because I
And
mean,
they,
at the moment, because I think this drama was released on New Year's Day, and this is about 2 weeks later. And today, when I got in the car and I put on the radio, I feel like I go into the car about 3 or 4 times, and on Radio 5 Live, they were talking about this. They were talking about this, and I think that the drama has really given an added impetus of, we can't let them get away with this. We can't, because I feel like it's kind of like, the big bad corporation, which happened to be the post office / the government, just punching down on these tiny people, or on these little people, just of saying, we're big, we're gonna say this is what it is, and you can't get away. And I think like this is really sort of pushed it. Shaun, you were gonna say something. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that I mean, it's funny enough, last year there was a Radio 4 that was serialised. You used to have it on it. There was a whole thing on this so yeah, and that was on the radio, but like Sharon says, on the TV, you actually see it more. I think more people. But yeah, no, it made me just listen to the radio program. It used to be on at 1:45 every sort of lunchtime, and they, like Radio 4, they do, and it was a whole sort, and it's like, oh my God. And I've felt lots of indignation. I thought, that's just so cruel. But now it's being televised, I mean, it's a good thing. It's even more, because I think TV opens it up to more people, doesn't it?
And it has made a huge difference. It was the first thing in the first Prime Minister's questions of the year was the post office. They're doing things, and it's only happened because of this drama, which is both transformative and horrific, that it takes an ITV drama for something to be done about something that they've known about for 5 years. For 5 years. This could have been dealt with 5 years ago, and it wasn't.
Yeah. Because I remember I heard about this a while back, and I remember thinking, nah, it can't. No, that couldn't have happened. Seriously? Like, the more you looked at it, you just sort of thought they couldn't. Just a computer glitch, and they ruined people's lives. And I remember thinking that couldn't have happened. And the more I looked at it, I was like, seriously, they went to those lengths, and I'm happy. And I guess sort of like, what you were saying with One Life, you said that it's a 5-star story, but they made a 1-star, a 3-star film about it. And it sounds like with this, from everything I've heard, they made a 5-star TV show.
Yes, absolutely.
That makes that takes you right to the heart of it. And I feel like there's very few people who have watched this, who have come away going, or anything other than, I think the word is indignation. That word just has to keep coming back again.
I think what's the bad thing is the actual post office itself should have known, and saying, we're having so many prosecutions, there's got to, because the majority of people, surely, if you're going to be a postmaster, it's going to be, you're not...
Honest people, on the whole.
Yeah, generally on the whole. And, I mean, they must have known, said, it's not isolated. It's not an isolated case or an isolated case. It's hundreds.
No. People, bureaucracy. People are not in the habit of saying that it's my fault.
I always remember the Incredibles. It goes, it's the bureaucracy.
Well, apparently part of it is it started from a Victorian position where postmasters and mistresses were seen to be a bit jumped up and trying to be better than they were. So everybody had there was a historical expectation that they would possibly be trying to pilfer funds. And then when they were taken to court, the onus was on them to prove their innocence.
As opposed
not for the post office to prove their guilt. And so the fact that there was no evidence of where this money had gone, that they hadn't spent it, that it hadn't appeared in anyone else's bank accounts, that there were no one was off to a tropical island, didn't matter.
Because I think if you look at it as a police investigation, that's the first thing you do, is you chase the money. You think, where has the money gone? And then you would look for bank statements and say, okay, if you've got £10,000 missing, where did that £10,000 go? And then you want to trace that money. But they never did that. They just said, we've got £10,000 missing, you have to repay it. And then as soon as they repaid it, it's like, okay, you've admitted it because you've repaid it, so you've basically...
Oh God!
And do you know where that money?
Oh, that makes me want to punch somebody.
The money that basically disappeared, that wasn't there, this money then existed. Basically, it was held in central post office funds, and then after it had been there for a certain amount of time, it just went into profits. So all of these people have bankrupted themselves, and the money that they have lost, that has destroyed them, has gone into post office profits.
Yeah.
Because
it never existed before. So this 25, it's not a missing £26,000.
No.
It was like, this is
no money.
It would never, it didn't exist before. You've just taken this money that was never missing in the first place, and then you've gone. So you have just pocketed that, because like you haven't got a shortfall anywhere. So that £26,000 they've taken off like one individual, there is no shortfall for that to fill that gap. So this is basically an extra £26,000.
They're essentially extorting people.
Yeah,
the post office was essentially extorting people.
And you could see it, as you say, not even complicated forensic accounting. There's not a gap. There's not a gap. The money that you say has gone hasn't appeared anywhere else. So you're going to get the money that hasn't disappeared to be found from somewhere that it doesn't exist, in order to put it somewhere where it's not missing, so that it can then be appropriated into a different fund, because it's money that's not meant to be there and nobody knows what to do with it.
Rampant racketeering. That's what it was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you think anybody will get prosecuted for it, or do you think everyone will get away with it? Do you think it'd be like a blowover?
No one is getting prosecuted for this. I mean, nobody went to jail.
I meant, like the people that, the
post office side.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean, and that's what I'm saying. Nobody's going to jail.
I don't think so. I think it's going to be one of these labyrinthine things. Everyone else is going to be. I'm responsible for this little bit, and I wasn't responsible for that bit.
Yeah,
and then the person who's responsible for that, they'll be like, I'm only responsible for. I only know this bit, the picture. So there is no one, and there are people who oversaw it, like the lady has handed back her CBE. Even she's saying, well, I only know what I know. And I didn't know any of this.
It's the fact that even Fujitsu, who are arguably the ones to blame here, that they wrote this piece of thing that had this, it seems like quite a simple glitch in it that ruined loads of lives. And even after that, I saw something that they have been, even after this, they have still been awarded something like 3.7 billion
government contracts.
Of government contracts after this to keep providing things. So
they haven't done anything. They haven't done anything criminal. They have successfully competed in procurement processes. There is nothing technically to disqualify them from bidding and winning.
Yeah, there's nothing. But the fact is, but the fact is, if a plumber goes to your house and puts a toilet in backwards, so that it actually flows into your room as opposed to flowing out of your house, that plumber shouldn't be getting another job.
There's I was listening today on the it would have been about lunchtime-ish, the news, and it was saying that they're still using the Fujitsu thing, but it's so old and antiquated that Fujitsu are the only ones that can
God.
No one else can. There's only Fujitsu that and the spokesman said, we are trying to change the system, so they've still got it.
I can't believe there's not a really simple off-the-shelf package that you could buy that would basically do it. There's so many. It's just mystifying. This is absolutely mystifying.
Oh my word! I can put myself getting annoyed.
I'm going to, on my sort of to-do list for the next day or so, is to see if the testimony from the select committee today, which had one of the Royal Mail investigators on there. And I would be really interested to see what was said, what happened. I'm not sure if I've got the stomach for it, I really feel for him as well, because that's going to be, can you imagine finding out that your decisions like that, when you thought you were doing the right thing?
You see, now this is part of the reason why I have not watched this show yet, because I'm not sure I can handle it. I'm really not sure I can handle it, because it's okay. I'm gonna try and finish this on because I was reading a story about this show, and it turns out that one of my friend's dads is actually in the show, not as an actor, like he is being played by somebody in the show. So yeah, he is. I was reading this, and I'll read the line I read from the BBC thing. It's like, former Tory MP James, now Baron Arbuthnot, a strong supporter of the affected post office staff's campaigns for justice, is played in the series by actor Alex Jennings. And I read that, I was kind of like, hang on a second. I immediately sent my friend Alex, I sent him a message going, because I just realized, I was like, hang on, that's your dad. I've met that guy. I've met that guy. I've hung out in his house and everything like that. And I was like, and I just to say, have to say that is good casting. That is really, really good casting. And he says that that they've just finished. His message back was like, oh yeah, he says like, oh, that apparently his dad met Alex Jennings on set, with the guy who was playing him on set, and it says he's a cool guy apparently. It says we've just finished it. It was pretty tough going to experience all the awfulness, and made us experience how awesome it is to be fixing these kind of problems in the world. I mean, I'm not sure how well the problem can be fixed. I'm not sure it can be fixed, but at least there's somebody who is not just trying to put the postmasters in the ground. And and I just reiterated to him. I was like, yeah, I've heard great things about this show, but I feel like I need to. I use the firm gird my loins. I need to sort of like back up my constitution. I need to be in the right frame of mind, because my TV might not survive me watching this show. I might break it.
It's a tough watch, because it's like, for these people who've been fighting since the 1990s. When you think about that, you're thinking that's.
Well, I mean, some of them are dead, literally.
Yeah, some of them have died. Yeah,
and some of them have taken their lives. I mean, people had committed suicide because they were just driven to it. So I think it's because part of it is it's quite unrelenting. So I must admit, I watched it all in one evening, all 4 episodes, because it was like, thought I need to get to some point of some sort of conclusion here.
Because some sort of resolution,
Yeah, because every time you get to the end of an episode, it's like, they sort of like, they think they've got somewhere, and then they're sort of like, they just sort of winkle out of it. They say, oh, well, actually, we have had a win. It's like they awarded some money, and then by the time they'd paid the court costs, and by the time they'd paid the solicitor's fees, and blah, 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 they were allocated something like less than £20,000 each. And they were awarded like millions. The settlement was like millions. But then they still haven't seen any of this money, because it's like there's appeal, there's all sorts of, and you're like going, ah.
It's now 75 grand per person now, isn't it? Not that that's very much money when you think about it.
Well, compared to what they lost,
Best casting. I just say best casting Sajid Javid as himself.
Yeah, when I was watching him,
I thought it was Zahawi.
Was it Zahawi?
It was Zahawi. Yeah, Zahawi plays himself.
Javid, it was yes, you're right. Because I looked at him thinking, that looks very much like him. Is that really him?
Yeah, it was Zahawi, because that was the story. But okay. I'm about to break out in tears here. So, Sharon, could you just tell us? I know it's horrible to reduce it down to this, but how many stars would you give this?
I think it's one of those dramas that you can't help but give it a 5.
Yeah.
I think because of the impact it's had, the impact it had on me personally, but the impact it's had on the wider society, on the government, who are actually sitting up now and taking real notice about this thing. I think this is the ultimate thing you can ask for from a drama, isn't it? That it's a drama, but it has real world impact, and it works with the power of good, basically. So I think it was a 5-star story anyway, but they presented it as a 5-star drama. And I think Toby Jones is just that sort of character that he's snarky, he's funny, he's determined, he probably would be a pain to live with, but portrays this so well that you were like, go, come on, don't give up. And so I think it ticked all the boxes in terms of what a drama should do and what it actually delivered. It had the intention, and then it delivered that. So yeah, it's got to be a 5-star, I think.
Okay, all right, cool. Okay, to save me talking for 2 minutes and to get me out of this sort of like pit that I'm currently in, Holly, you have 2 minutes to talk about Monsternado.
Excellent. Thank you. Right, I'm primed and ready. Get my timer going. And Monsternado, film set in Florida. Not entirely sure why. There are tornadoes, except they're water spouts, and apparently the weather forecast need to report on it. And it's funny at this time of year, except it's not clear why it's funny at this time of year. There's a scientist who looks like Matt Damon, who's eaten lots and lots of burgers. It's not Matt Damon, but his character's name is Matt, which helps in remembering who he is. And he then gets betrayed by somebody else who steals the information that he's been presenting to the military, but you don't need to worry, because that guy ends up dying because his plane gets taken down by a pterodactyl. He ends up in this hotel. I'm not sure why he's in this hotel. In this hotel are also 3 women who are dressed up as prostitutes and are apparently from the CIA, Interpol and somewhere else. And I wasn't sure if they were actually meant to be agents or pretending to be agents because they acted so badly. And I hate to say this, thought one of them might have been in drag, but they weren't. And they were trying to capture a criminal who they did, but I don't know why they needed to be undercover as prostitutes because they could have done that without it. But they got him and they went downstairs in the building and the security guard was locking the building and said nobody could go out. And then they said, oh no, some people want to go out. So some people were allowed out, but he locked the doors and nobody could get back in. And the building was designed to survive a hurricane after Katrina. So people went outside and then there were pterodactyls. And then they stayed in the hotel, everybody else. And then one of the agents stayed downstairs for reasons to protect them from the giant crabs. And I still don't know why there were giant crabs. And somehow the giant crabs made it into the building. And she shot somebody in the head and then she got killed by the giant crabs. And I've only got 17 seconds yet. So we end up with a megalodon, more giant crabs. It turns out the security guard was actually the founder of all of the torture practices at Guantanamo Bay. And when he was about to torture the bad guy, he got taken out through the window by a pterodactyl. And another guy managed to safely radio the military, who sent in planes, but I don't know who he was or why he radioed the military. And he said he wasn't going to make it, and he didn't because he was on the top of a car that was being circled by sharks, and a shark jumped over it and ate him. And then there was a giant octopus that was climbing the outside of a building and that was taken down by, I think, possibly fighter jets, but I'm not sure. And I don't know why the fighter jets were really there. And it was very difficult to follow. But everybody died except the people who didn't die. And there were planes, and it looked like it was probably filmed on an iPhone. 2.5 minutes.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you Monsternado? And no, I still don't know why it happened or what the science was, but the scientists said a thing. And this is why I had to talk about it. Because now I feel better.
Where do I get this film?
I will do my best to arrange access for you because you have to see it.
Eaten by a giant crab. I just need to see that.
It's just, oh, there's a crocodile or an alligator. I don't know where it came from, why it was there. I don't know where the sharks came from either, and I really don't know why Megalodon smashed through a wall, but it did.
Okay, thank you for that, Holly.
Do you feel better now?
That's cheered me up. That's cheered me up. but seriously.
And this is why I watch these films, so you guys don't have to, and you get a 2.5 minute précis.
But what I will say is, I still apologize for bringing this film. I still apologize to the world for bringing this film to your attention.
But you've all had to hear 2.5 minutes about what actually happened.
What a great 2.5 minutes that was as well.
Oh, and I have
Crabs,
more lined
megalodons.
up yet.
It's just kind of like every now and then it was just kind of like, and there was a pterodactyl, and there was a pterodactyl, and there was another pterodactyl.
I don't know why there were pterodactyls either. This was never really made clear. I mean, it might have been, but I stopped paying attention because it was too stupid. So I'd keep tuning back in and go, what?
I think they had the pterodactyl button on the video effects machine, so just kept hitting the pterodactyl button.
I am almost 100% positive that that's the case.
It's like, pterodactyl!
And the octopus. The octopus was extraordinary. It's the worst CGI I have ever seen in my life.
Okay, cool.
And I've seen bad CGI, but...
all right.
Aquaman.
I think we are a bit over time. Does everybody have 10 minutes? Does everybody have 10 minutes?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. You have 10 minutes.
Yeah. I'll get 10 minutes. 10 minutes.
Okay, cool. I think I'm just gonna say. Obviously, Netflix and Friends have won this week. Mostly down to the excellence of Mr. Bates versus the Post Office, but also in a large part because of Night Swim. because Night Swim went, you know what? In this week of Mr. Bates versus the Post Office, I think that needs to win. And even though I think it will win, I'm just going to make really, really sure, just sort of like, scuttle my own boat in a swimming pool, in a haunted swimming pool.
We also didn't allow Monsternado to actually get a review, which also helped.
That is not no.
How many stars did you give it?
No, refuse.
0 and 5 all at the same time.
That's barely a film.
That's brilliant. I watched a thing on YouTube once. And I watched this thing. It said the top 5 tanks of all time, and they went through the list. And then there was the second one was the worst 5 tanks of all time, and they were exactly the same tanks. And the bloke went through the first one. He was saying what's so great about it, and then he was going through saying what's so bad about him. So yeah.
I really want to watch that.
All right. Okay. Cool. So, now, okay. Every now and then, what we do at this show is that so one of us reviews something, and after that, somebody else gets to go see it. And Shaun, you said that after I reviewed Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom last week,
Yeah.
and then you got a chance to go see it. So, anybody who wants to know about the plot of the film, listen to last week's show. Shaun, you're wound up. You're ready. Go.
Oh my goodness me!
And I think it's fair to say we don't care about spoilers here.
No, we don't.
It's not worth it. It's not. Worth it.
It's really, really not worth it. It's just horrendous. It's like horrendous acting, horrendous CGI all the time. It's got no. It's just no. What's the word? It's just. It's so inconsistent. The inconsistencies are ridiculous, and it's like, what is going on here? You know, you got Dolph Lundgren.
Oh my god, yeah.
And it's like, oh
yeah. So you know, I mentioned that about Dolph Lundgren. That I don't know what's happened, but he was really, really difficult to understand. You couldn't understand a word he said.
That's it. Perhaps it was being underwater, but the inconsistency of it, and it was like, oh man, this is all over the place. This is just like crazy, and it was all CGI, wasn't it? It was just masses and masses.
Oh yeah.
CGI. It was all totally, and I didn't think it was that particularly. Oh, I don't know. Yeah. So no. So I mean, I'm trying to think. You gave it a 3. For
just
me,
about. Yeah.
Yeah, just about. I probably would give it a 2 if it was. In fact, I might even give it 1 just because if I. Yeah, I didn't like it at all, Tosin. It made me really angry. It made me huffy. It made me cross my legs and go, "Oh my God, what am I watching here?"
I could just visualize your cinema posture.
Yeah, sure. I don't even think I could have been. I don't think I could be bothered enough to be angry about the film.
Yeah, I can understand. Yeah, I suppose I just thought, well, yeah, this is what it is. I mean, what are DC doing? What are they trying to do? You know? I mean, I don't know. You probably look more than me, but what have the reviews been like for it?
Oh, they've been uniformly terrible.
Oh, okay. Okay.
They've been uniformly terrible. I mean, because everything you said about it. Because I know I mentioned about the fact that Jason Momoa's performance from one scene to the next is kind of like. Is it serious? Is it funny? Is it what? Does he like this guy? Does he hate him? Does he want to break him in half? Does he want?
Yeah, I know what's going on. That's what I'm saying. It's so inconsistent, you know. And with getting hurt and then not getting hurt, and you know, it's like, you can take that, and then all of a sudden something mild, and it's like, oh, you've taken that, and yet before you could have withstood that, you know. But anyway, never mind. So I didn't like it. I thought it was awful. Worst probably superhero movie I've seen, and I'll be interested to know about Saltburn because I got a feeling, I don't know, I had a feeling in your mind that you perhaps didn't like it as much as I did. So,
no. Okay. So I'll say Saltburn. So obviously, Shaun previously reviewed Saltburn, and I saw it because all of a sudden it showed up on Prime Video. It's just on Prime Video, like just before Christmas, and it was like kind of Saltburn, and I wanted to watch it, but because of my newly found parental status, I couldn't make it to the cinema to see that because it's Emerald Fennell. I think that she does quite interesting stuff and everything because she did Promising Young Woman and all that, and I wanted to see this film, and I liked it. I quite like.
Wow.
Yeah,
no,
I think it is a good film. It's a good film. There are 4 scenes. There are 4 scenes in this film that I could barely watch. That you had to go, no, you're not doing that. No, oh my God.
Right, okay, yeah.
And you have your hands. You have your hands. Pretty much have my hands over my eyes, and I was looking like through my fingers, going, "What? Is it over yet? No. Oh my God, he's still going." And it's and these scenes have. Like, for instance, let's put it this way. You know the song "Murder on the Dance Floor" by Sophie Ellis-Bextor. That is back in the chart. It made it into the top 10 because of this film, because it's used. It is used in one of those scenes.
Yeah, I know the scenes you're talking about.
It's used in one of those scenes in this film.
She was on the radio as well talking about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Got her right back, you know?
Yeah, talking about the power of TV or film or anything like that. Like, all of a sudden, you have all these people who... And it is weird to say this, all these people who were not born when that song came out.
Yeah.
Who are kind of like, what song is that? And I've been Shazamming it and Spotifying it and everything like that because it shows up in this film. And the thing with this film that gets me is because there's a bit where the film switches. And it kind of like, hang on a second, but... Wait, you were just like this, all of a sudden you're like this, and it starts off looking like it's like a satire of the class struggle between, like, you know, the haves and the have-nots and everything like that. But then as it goes on, there's other sort of like almost thrillery elements that come into it and all that. And if you are going to this film expecting a satire of class in the UK, this film does not work like that. But if, and this is what I've decided, if you accept that Emerald Fennell, what she does is make pulpy nonsense, this is excellent. Because this is an excellent pulpy nonsense thing where, because there's things towards the end of the film you're like, hang on a second, but that doesn't make any sense. How does that work? Why would you do that? How stupid are the rest of you that you just let this guy keep doing this? And when the film ends, you're like, what? But once you accept that this is actually pulpy nonsense and it's not a satire, it's pulpy nonsense that has hints of satire of class things in there. Great film. If you're expecting like a satire that tells you about, the haves and have-nots and why this is good and why that is bad, you're going to walk around going, oh, for goodness sake, I thought it went totally ridiculous towards the end. And I've come to the point of view that no, the ridiculousness was always the point. That's where it was always.
Not another Brideshead.
It's not another Brideshead. It's not anything like that. I think this film owes a massive debt to the novels of a. The thing is, I feel like if I say the novels that I feel this film owes a massive debt to, I feel like it just spoils the entire film. I think it spoils the entire film, that, but it's by a female author with the initials PH, and this film owes a massive debt because I was watching this thing going, hang on a second, I think I've never read that book, but isn't this the exact same plot of that book? Like what happens in this film and where it goes, and that I think quite early on. I see exactly what's going on. I see what's going on. I knew what's going to go and who's going to do what was going to happen, and everything like that. And the fact that none of the other characters see it or anything like that, I'm just like, okay, no, this film is supposed to be pulpy nonsense. It's supposed to be pulpy nonsense. Just the way in is this sort of like, it seems like a satire, but it isn't really that. It's supposed to be, it's like a book you buy on a plane and then you throw away. And I think
I think with the class thing though, I think the dinner party thing where they've got the is it Helen Bonham Carter? Is it Helen?
No, it's Rosamund Pike.
Not Rosamund Pike. The other one, the other girl that.
Carrie Mulligan.
Oh yeah, you can stay Carrie Mulligan. The
character that only gets referred to by the name, poor dear Pamela, and throughout the film. Her name is just, I think in the credits, she's referred to as poor dear Pamela. Yeah. And nobody ever calls her Pamela. They always call her poor dear Pamela throughout the entire film. So yeah, I think that there is some satire in there. It's very, very well observed. The performances are great across the board.
Oh, good.
But,
I'm pleased you liked it.
Yeah, no, I did like it. But it's just, it was, if you. But you have to accept it's a lurid thriller. It's pulpy nonsense, and once you accept that, it is fun. If you think, oh no, this is supposed to be like a drama that talks about, forget that nonsense. It's not supposed to be a drama that talks about all that kind of stuff. It's not supposed to be that. I have decided that's not the point of this whole thing. And the 4 scenes, and Shaun, I can talk in length about them, but I think like those 4 scenes are almost kind of like the linchpins of the film. Some of them are very, very spoilerific, but I'll just say one of them involves soil, one of them involves bathwater, one of them involves dancing, and one of them involves. I don't even know if I can say it.
On a dance floor.
Yeah. One of them involves. I'll put it like one of them involves vampirism.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of them involves vampirism. That's what I will put it that way. I'll put it that way because that I think I can say without spoiling anything. But those scenes are just kind of like, what the hell is this going on? I thought I was watching Brideshead Revisited. So yeah. Well, I thought Saltburn was good.
What do you think Sharon would make of it? That's because I'd be interested in that.
Ooh.
I know. That's what I mean. I'd be intrigued because I think it could go one way or the other.
Okay,
I'm now going to watch it this evening. By the way.
Yeah. No. Sharon, I think that you will notice the literary things I'm alluding to. You will notice because I don't even think it's hidden. I think it's very much like this. This takes from a well-known book, and I think that there's going to be some bits where you're going to have to watch it through your hands, like I did, And I think that if we hadn't spoken about it and you had gone to watch this thing, there's some scenes where you might have left the cinema. So,
I haven't read any spoilers about it, but I have inferred by what I have not read that there's probably things that would probably send my winsometer into the red.
They would
Let's put it that
100% do that. They would run. Oh, red. That's actually a good. That's a good color for it. Yeah, like sorry, we're so in red. But the thing is, there are some, and I would say if you watch it because it's on Prime Video now, it's one of these weird things where it's on Prime Video at the exact same time as it's still in cinemas. So there's still cinemas, local cinemas. I can go and watch it now, but it's. So I would say when you reach any of those scenes, try and power through them or skip forward a little bit because. There's other stuff in the film that is kind of interesting, but yeah, there are going to be scenes that are just going to make you go, "What the hell? What the actual hell am I watching?" So, and the other thing final thing I'll say about this film is that I think it was entirely missold. I think that all of the advertising totally missells the film. Like, I think there's a tagline on the poster that says, "And we were all slowly losing our minds," and I'm like, that has nothing to do with the film. It's absolutely nothing to do with the film. So I feel like the people, when they made the film, the marketing department watched the film and went, "We have no idea how to sell this." We have no idea. But I do think it is actually one of the films of the year, if for no other reason because of all the chat that it has been gathering and getting everybody to talk about it, and for getting Felix Baxter back in the top 10.
Back in the charts, yeah.
So, all right, cool. I think I'm going to stop there, and I will leave the other reviews that our roving reporters Cindy Drennan and Nina Remtula have given me for Priscilla, and also for what was the other film? For Poor Things. I will leave that till next week. And until then, I would say please do find us online, find us on YouTube. Let us know what you think about the different things that we said. Let us know what you think about Saltburn and whether you can identify the 4 scenes I'm talking about. And get in touch with us on Twitter at Netflix via Cinema, Facebook Netflix via Cinema, also on YouTube at Netflix via Cinema. And until next week, all I can have to say is a goodbye from me.
It's a goodbye from me.
A goodbye for me.
Goodbye from me.
You see now, for those of you who are not English or British, you might not realize, but we just had a polite off.
Yeah.
Wait, we're just gonna after you. After you. Thank you very much for joining us.